I'm so excited to share my Grunt If You Understand vocabulary terminology series. Remember, these ideas are going to be comical, they're going to be playful, often absurd, and definitely fun, which is what makes them so memorable. Before we get started, a quick reminder that the Grunt If You Understand method of ballet training goes well beyond the vocabulary and terminology of dance. It's going to help dancers understand all of the mechanics of ballet technique, from the smallest details to the big picture. So you can find out more about that full program at gruntifyouunderstand.com. So let's get right into the Grunt If You Understand vocabulary terminology series.
What does cheese and chocolate have to do with ballet?
So what does cheese and chocolate have to do with ballet? This is another episode of our vocabulary and terminology series. And today we're going to be talking about fondue. Fondue is a fun one to teach your students because many of them, if you point it out, know exactly what fondue is. I asked them, have you ever gone to a restaurant or to a party and they had that beautiful fountain of chocolate and you had pieces of pound cake and strawberries and such to dip into that chocolate, that melted chocolate? What a treat. I asked them, have they ever had melted cheese? Perhaps some queso dip and some chips, or perhaps they're having some pita or some bread and some melted cheese. So most students know what fondue is, and if they didn't make that connection of the French term fondue in reference to ballet, once you mention it, they're like, oh yeah, fondue, I love fondue. So teach your students that fondue means to melt, that melted cheese and that melted chocolate. And when they execute their fondues, they need to melt. So when you give a fondue combination, you're going to tell the students to dip that bread into the cheese and let it melt before taking it out of the pot of cheese, and dip that strawberry into that chocolate, juicy, gooey, melted, and then lift it up out of the pot. So fondue to melt, and then they will extend. Or if they're in their combination in a tendu and you want them to then fondue, remember to encourage them to melt as they fondue, melting like melted chocolate. Or if they are in that arabesque and you are going to ask them to fondue, melt into that chocolate, melt into that cheese. Make sure that it's oozing and melted and delicious. So what does fondue mean? It means to melt, and we can help our students by having them visualize melting cheese and chocolate fondue. Grunt if you understand. Thank you for joining me for Grunt If You Understand's vocabulary and terminology series. I hope you'll check back as the library of visualizations expands.